Today is the 12th of May and Steve has just been in here because we are slightly rearranging my office. I'm teaching a workshop this morning, the first power planning workshop, and I really want to be able to use this whiteboard. And Steve was like, "You're nervous because you want to rearrange your whole room. What are you doing?" It's like, "No, I don't. I just want to be able to use this whiteboard and do minimum viable switch." So it's going to be me sitting over there for this week with the rug over here and the room not really set up nicely. Feels very weird because that's the door to be sitting there. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I feel like I haven't felt nervous like this in a long time, which feels really good. And it doesn't. I don't like the sensation, but I ultimately do like what I know, like when I'm willing to feel nervous, it is a symptom of me being in helpful thinking. When I'm not willing to be nervous and when I then do a lot of things on the back end or just like, I just stay in what's really comfortable for me only. Like what I'm about to do with this workshop is comfortable for me in a lot of ways, but it's uncomfortable as well. So I'm kind of like doing what I'm doing in the way that naturally is easiest for me, to have a whiteboard and riff and let myself just like talk and write notes and have a rough guideline. I'm going to put here, so this line here is where the camera cuts off. So that's for me to mainly know where to write up until so that everything I write is on screen. And then I was like, well, I've got this spare space. I can just give myself like the key dot points and stories and things like that I want to share. A big part of the nervousness is kind of just having thoughts. Well, it is generated by my thoughts. There's like nothing in my physical environment to be nervous about. But this like perfectionist thought pattern of I need to get it right or it won't work. And that has me thinking about me and not the person who's really excited to come and learn from me. And I don't want to spend because it's in 2 hours, the next 2 hours self-coaching on trying to feel better. I'm just going to hold this feeling in my chest. I can do that. And what I want to do is think about what I want to share. And so last night, I was cleaning the bathrooms and I had so many epiphanies doing that. And we recently let go of our cleaners that we had who were doing that, just like having all the kids. It felt so hard to also clean the bathrooms. And I just felt like I'd be doing a lot with personal finances. Like me just quickly cleaning the bathrooms feels like a better thing to do at this point in time. Anyway, that's all a side note. But with that said, I was cleaning the bathrooms. I was like, this is a great time for me to get to just listen to whatever and like my brain can just wander off. And I was thinking about how comedians, how they write their sets. And I love learning from different industries. I love learning how chefs are great chefs, or how comedians are great comedians, or how athletes are great athletes, because that all reveals the first principles, like the fundamentals that apply across all industries. And my way of learning and like how I compute things, that is such a big part of why I'm able to teach all different kinds of entrepreneurs, because I'm not thinking like, oh, like I know what works for a coaching business, but I don't know what works for other businesses. I do know the fundamentals of creating success across such a big array of industries that I can coach someone in a completely different kind of business and have them be successful. So anyway, I was thinking about comedians and how they write their sets and how, as the stories go, that they'll go to do like a stand-up show somewhere that like they're not a headline actor or anything, even if they're already famous. And they'll do all their jokes, they'll try out their new material, they'll see what lands, they'll see what doesn't. Then they'll take the ones that landed and got a good laugh, and then they'll do that at the top of the next set, and then they'll try a bunch of new material and then they just keep going and going and going and going until they get their set is just full of all the things that really hit. And that is what goes into like the Netflix special or the show at Madison Square Garden or whatever. And thinking about it in that way really helps me So doing this weekly power planning workshop, which I can teach in my sleep, but my brain's like, but it has to be right, and you have to say this bit and that bit, and like, just, I think there are so many people who do online events for their business that are in perfectionist thought patterns, that, and a lot of people who teach it that are also in those patterns of like, well, you have to, it won't work unless you do a script, it won't work unless this, it won't work unless that, instead of like, well, what are first principles of what works, and like, what is the first principles of helping someone who wants your help, and having them. So in this case, I'm teaching my little heart out in this workshop, and then for those who want to do more, I'm inviting them to join the power planning course, because I can't teach it all in a workshop, and the full thing's there. And so like, your first power hour workshop, it's like 2 hours of me guiding you through your first power hour, things like that, that just, it's so good to do it, and people love it. So there are so many people who want to do it. I want to invite them in, but my brain goes into, but it won't work unless you do it exactly right. And to do it exactly right, you have to not do it how you would do it. And so what I've been thinking about is like, what is the me way to do it? And also what really stuck out to me with the comedians, I hope this is making some sort of sense. What really stood out to me with the comedians is that like, just how important storytelling is, and jokes are really just funny stories, and that when I'm trying to get things right, I tend to not tell stories. I tend to just go more into like the concepts and like say it in a more informational way. But I know what works for me, which I did from the beginning without really realizing it, but kind of actually I did know what I was doing, was sharing personal stories. And when I shared my real stories in first person, people could listen to that and be like, oh my God, me too. And so I think for me with this, I'm about to just prep like a rough outline of what I want to say, is that like bringing in the stories and then having names for things, which I already do have a lot of names for things, but naming stuff, and this is for anyone who delivers a service. So say, for example, power planning, I could call it power planning. Oh, what's that? Or I could call it, I teach you how to plan in a calendar. Okay, cool. I could learn that from anyone. Power planning is a very specific way. Only I teach it and have developed it. And to call it power planning makes it more tangible, makes it more learnable, makes it more intriguing, which when we're more intrigued, we're more likely to learn it. And so naming what you can, like I'm just excited to do the workshop in the way I'm planning to do it, because I know I'm going to have really great ideas while I'm teaching. And when I create content in this kind of way, like even just creating this like flow of how consistent follow through works, I'm like, like that is what I've been saying for so long, but I haven't like said it that clearly before, because I'm trying to draw a picture of it. To draw a picture, I have to really get it concise. And I love standing at a whiteboard and riffing. So all of this to say, I feel a bit nervous. I feel like it's kind of like the feeling of in school, particularly high school. I did law and finance at uni, and I didn't have to do any oral presentations, like any talks as a law student, which is kind of insane. You can get through a whole law degree without actually talking. It was all, at least where I went, it was all, which was a really good university, but it was all written exams and written assignments, and anything that involved talking was optional. And finance, we didn't have any. So with, though I did French too, that obviously involves speaking. But in high school, when it's like the day in English class, and you know that you need to, like, it's the day of the orals and you need to give your presentation, and you're like waiting for your turn, watching everyone else. That's the feeling I have, which is kind of this like, not even nervousness, it's kind of a bit like dread. I'm trying to name the feeling. I'm thinking of like a feelings wheel. I think like nervous is the easy name to give it, but it's more, yeah, I'd say like anxious dread. Fun. I'm willing to feel that though. It's not going to hurt me. But I used to always, for the oral presentations, I used to always volunteer to go first, because I'd rather just have it over with than sit there and wait. But now I have more ability and awareness to be able to say, I can actually sit with that feeling. I feel like dread is more like a knot in my stomach. So if this is dread, it's a lighter version. But yeah, I'm going to just like focus my mind on what do I know, about what I'm teaching. What do I know about giving a really incredible workshop? What do I know about the people who are attending and why this is so, or watching the replay and why they really want to hear this, and their life, and like connecting with what is going on in their life right now, that they're like, I wish I could just follow through, and just really connecting in with my wisdom and power and all of that, instead of what if this, what if that, like going into that thought pattern, which is equally, if not more, available to my brain. That's what my brain is offering. So I am going to redirect it. And what my brain wants to do is like have this, like, here's the perfect things to say. But what I really want to do is just like, if they were like, I can't say as much as I want to say. It takes longer to say things than I think, and like to tell a story. So probably there's going to be like 1 to 3 things I can say. And this is going to be probably one of them. So if that's the case, what are those 3 things? What stories do I have to really support that? And then with the power planning course, essentially, like, I already know that inside and out, but just like actually being like, this is what is on offer. Yeah, it's like my brain wants to make it a big deal, but I have done live stuff like this at this point hundreds of times, or at least a presentation like this, like dozens of times. So this clubhouse, it was like, you're nervous. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I know, I hear you. And can we shuffle my desk? Which it also feels a bit weird having everything backwards, but I put a plant here. Couldn't move my fiddle leaf, and I need to properly wipe this down because you can see it's all smudgy. But I'm excited because now that I'm here, I can actually use this in coaching calls instead of the digital whiteboard in Zoom. This is way better. And I have this here for a reason. And I'd always had this behind me so that when I'm presenting and stuff, like, I wanted to have in the room, the back wall be that nice back wall, but also like have a nice backdrop. But for me, it's much nicer to look at that wall all day and my giant fiddle leaf Fiona all day, and I can look out the window as well, than it is to look at this whiteboard. And proportionately in my week, either like all my calls, I'm going to be using this whiteboard. It's not just like a stagnant backdrop. Anyway, I'm just rambling on. I'm gonna get moving. Okay, so it's later the same afternoon, and the workshop was so good. It's funny just like dreading something you enjoy doing. But once I was in it, and so I also did some prep after I finished recording that really helped. But once I was in it, I was just like, I'm fine. This is all good. We can relax. So I ended up going for an hour 50. I just kept staying on because people kept staying on. And so I was just sharing other things that I could share as well. So I ended up using my whiteboard, which I loved. And I had written out, I'll show you my notes, they're very messy. I had written out, I was going to go say this stuff and I didn't. Essentially like what I wanted to put on the whiteboard, and I wrote it out in the hour before the workshop. I'm kind of like, here's a process that I take someone through. And what I wanted to do as well is everything that I taught either needed to have an analogy, a story, either from myself or a client story as an example, or be like a visual framework, like a cycle or like different things like that, because I feel like it's just easy, I think I mentioned this, to talk in kind of this like conceptual way and say words that make sense, but it doesn't, like, you don't remember it. And I know what really works well for me as a learner and as a teacher is teaching through story and analogy and frameworks that are simple and memorable. I think I can really simplify what I taught in the sense that I had like lots of words, but I think it's a great gathering of my ideas on the topic in a way that I haven't really articulated before, or I feel clearer on it. Probably maybe from the outside, it's always been clear since I've already had so many people sign up for the power planning course and for PGSE. So it's sufficiently clear already, but I just feel like this is continuing to iterate, and I'm really excited that I'm going to get to teach the same workshop next week, and next week I've got the bare bones. And so what I'm doing, and it's kind of me thinking it through as I'm saying it, but what I'm doing is I'm going to keep everything the same as much as I can. So like I'm using exactly the same workshop registration page. Could it be improved? 100%. Half the top of the page is blank because the image and the text comes up lower. But in this next one, I'm not going to be testing, like I'm not trying to split test that. What I want to do is, I'd say probably for the next few, is to just keep simplifying the workshop content and getting really familiar with that. And I'm really excited for that, not from a place of I'm going to perfect it, but just like I could already feel today with how I taught it that for certain things I said, I'm like, I can say that in half the time or way clearer, or like different stories as well that I wanted to share that didn't make it in that I think would be really helpful. So like I kind of get to riff around it, and like the core structure fundamentally stays the same, and I can change, like trying a different tone, or I don't know, just like so many different things I can try. So what I'm doing really for the first 4 weeks is getting people signing up for the workshop and then delivering the workshop, and just like getting the data on how many people sign up for the workshop, attendance, replays, signups for the course, and getting that data. And then I will know, okay, the biggest needle mover is getting a higher percentage of people onto the workshop, for example, or I'm getting a good percent of people onto the workshop, but the needle mover is getting people to sign up for PTSD, or like, not PTSD, the power planning course, like having people take that next step, or something else. So I'm kind of just getting a look at what's happening over the next 4 weeks. And I'm also nerding out about it because I have been learning to cook, or like improving my cooking skills. I didn't start at zero, but I wasn't a confident cook. I'm a relatively confident baker because I practiced doing that a lot. I used to call it Procrastinate Tuesday. When I was a uni student, on Tuesday I would bake something, and from a cookbook that I had, and I got pretty good at knowing what a good recipe looks like, what a not good recipe looks like. And I don't even know how to articulate how. It's just like from the repetition, because I couldn't really articulate it of like what, like when I look at a recipe, why I think it is a one that will work or not. Anyway, I'm really wanting to be more skilled and confident in cooking. As a mum of 4, I will be doing, and my husband Steve is an excellent cook and he does a lot of the cooking, but when he's not there, I'm doing the cooking. And I'd like to also be able to not have it default to him every time when he's there as well. I want to be able to do it. James, my third, one of the twins, he loves cooking. He's 3. And I really want to also foster that. The others love it as well, but James is like obsessed with cooking and just wants to be involved in every step, whereas the others will come and go, but they're not as into it. They still love it. So I really want to be able to foster that. And I like spending time cooking. It's just been a hard season with having little ones, lots of little ones all together, that it was definitely hard, especially with the twins, to be able to cook while supervising twin toddlers and another toddler. Anyway, I decided I was going to cook. I want to do a roast on Sundays. I do pizza night on Saturday, homemade pizza, and then roast on Sundays. It has been a game changer just to standardize those decisions instead of what are we going to eat. Just like pizza night, I implemented it incrementally. Pizza night, we're going to do that every Saturday. And then I've been like improving the pizzas and trying different ingredients. And I'm currently trying different bases. I think I'm going to try and make my own dough. And then Sunday, I want to cook a roast dinner. And roast has always been very intimidating. Anyway, I found a recipe for slow cooked roast lamb on Recipe Tin Eats, which is one of my favorite blogs for cooking. And I have a cookbook too. It's really good. And I've just decided I'm going to do the same recipe every week. And so this last weekend was, I want to say, the 4th time I made it. Maybe it was the 3rd, but I could make it without looking at the recipe. It's very simple. And I feel like by making it a couple more times, I'll be at a place where I can troubleshoot it confidently. Currently, I'm using ChatGPT to help me with troubleshooting and like understanding the concepts of why it works. But I'm like developing my unconscious competence. And then I want to go, probably once I've done that one, to still do lamb, but to do the more like not the slow cooked one, where it's like a slow roast, but instead you cook it for like an hour and a half or whatever. So that's my next step. So anyway, I'm just going to take the same approach to this, a really slow and incremental improvement process, but like I get quick results compared to if I was trying to cook a different kind of roast every weekend. I probably wouldn't feel like I knew how to make any roast. Whereas now I'm like, I could cook a lamb roast for my friends and not feel stressed and not be worried that it won't turn out and it not feel like a big deal. So with that said, I am currently just doing all of like the boring but necessary back-end things. So I've just sent out the replay of the workshop. I need to schedule out the other emails to go out. I am going to use some emails my past self wrote that were good. I just use them again. So there's that. I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel every time you do something. And I would like to finish early. It's Liam's birthday also. He's 1. So we're going to go pick him up. And we already had his party a week ago. And obviously being 1, he doesn't know it's his birthday, but we know. And yeah, it's just really fun to celebrate. So we will do something special tonight. And I just want to have a minute to not think for a second. I feel like 2 hours of teaching live. I had already in my power planning like a half-hour break. I had actually planned an hour break, but the workshop went over. So it ended up being a half-hour break, or it went over. I decided to keep on talking. It didn't happen to me. I was in charge. So I have intentional wind down time after built in, but then because the current place that I'm at is just really getting things up and running as I'm doing them, that I knew I had after planning bits that are time sensitive. So I just want to get the only thing I need to do really today is reply to anyone in PGSD for Ask a Coach. I just checked before there was one person to just replying to them. And then all of the emails, the ones that I'm repurposing, having them all done. So I'm going to put on some music and just focus. And it's 3:19. I want to finish at 4:15, but I'm just thinking through, that's my idealistic. So I'll put it in my power planning, but I think finishing that at 4:30, if that's all I focus on, is the most realistic thing, because I need to go through and read the emails and just adjust things. And I also need to talk to my assistant about setting up the bonus that we have for people on the back end. So that's what I'm going to do, and let that be enough. There's a few other little bits and pieces, but tomorrow morning I will do my power planning for the week. I already had today power planned out from last week. I have 2 coaching calls. I just feel so good having done that workshop today, to have my new strategy rolling and just knowing it's underway. I've already updated things so people can sign up for the next one that's next week. So it just feels good to have that momentum. And I talked about this in the workshop today, that when you're not taking much action, every action you do take feels so much more precious and heavy, because you're not doing enough. So everything you do feels more important, or that it has to be more dramatic. For example, if you were losing weight and instead of just consistently over time eating a healthy diet and exercising, if you're then just trying to in a week lose the weight, you have to do dramatic stuff. It becomes this big deal because you haven't been taking enough action towards the goal. So anyway, I just feel like I'm taking sufficient action, that the action doesn't feel precious. It just feels okay, let's decide this and move. Let's decide this and move on. That feels good. I love being in that rhythm. And yeah, I've just been getting a lot done personally as well. Over the weekend, I accomplished so much. And also while parenting, I have learned how to accomplish a lot while also parenting as well. And with constant interruptions and things like that, and what to do and not do, and all the different things. So that has also been a skill I've been developing, and a mindset. So I just feel a lot of momentum in every area of my life. I'm going to wrap up, put my music on, and get this done. I want to talk through something I just realized because it has been so helpful. I'll show you on my whiteboard. Okay, so this is the cycle I have just noticed myself in, and seeing it like this has been just so helpful. So the cycle of that says tiring failure is don't achieve a goal instantly, decide something is wrong, change the plan based on a new epiphany or new thought, realization, do something new, and then don't achieve the goal instantly, and on it goes. So what for me has happened this morning, I noticed that I was having thoughts about the workshop that I did and that essentially it's an unconscious thought, but there should be a sign up by now. And then I noticed when I was doing some self-coaching, my brain going into okay, well, ultimately, my main thing is perfectionist getting shit done. And I've made a plan to sell, essentially to have people sign up for the power planning course and doing a weekly workshop called the Power Planning Workshop, where I teach on that and then invite people to work with me further if they want to by signing up for the Power Planning course. And just looking at like, why have I made a decision to get really good at selling the Power Planning course instead of deciding, for example, to do a weekly workshop on perfectionist getting shit done? And then having this epiphany of like, oh my God, I've just realized I'm in this thought, I don't know how to sell PGSD and I should change my plan and start over, essentially, scrap everything and do a weekly PGSD workshop and do a power planning course promotion once a quarter. And that just felt so smart and like such a good idea. And then I was like, what if this is just me having a feeling and there isn't actually a decision to be made? Because what I'm trying to decide right now is, do I completely change my plan? And that is a red flag. That is a little alarm bell going off, because many times from a feeling of either uncertainty or feeling unsuccessful or inadequate, I have had a great new idea about something different I could try. And actually, here's why that makes so much sense, because I have this new self-awareness about why I decided the first thing I decided. And so I caught that. And one of the reasons I caught that, I'm in a program called Small Business Money School. Gina Knox runs that program. She's fantastic. And I believe she has a YouTube channel. She definitely has a podcast. And she, in one of the trainings that I watched, mentioned about having what basically you have something happen in your business, you have a feeling about it, from that feeling you make a business decision, and then from that business decision there's a consequence, and then you flag that consequence as a big problem in your business, and then you invest money to solve that problem, when actually the problem was just you had a feeling that you didn't process or you didn't just allow it to be there, and you changed everything based on that. And I just felt so seen in that, because that just explained a lot for me. So when that was in the back of my mind as I was going through this, I was like, is this not maybe just a feeling problem? Because actually there isn't enough data to say what I'm doing isn't working, but I feel like this is me, like my perfectionist brain, just not wanting to be in uncertainty and just going to like, wait, let's just change the plan. Here's why it's so smart to do that. And so what I self-coached on is, what data would I actually need to warrant, from a data perspective, changing the plan? Because I did intentionally make this plan. I thought it through. So to just change it based on no data and just like this big realization, instead of like, if I'm having a thought, I don't know how to sell PGSD, I could continue with my current plan and also believe I know how to sell PGSD and change the results I get, instead of going, well, if I believe that, then I do a workshop every week. Instead of like, I might believe I know how to sell PGSD and continue with my plan to do a quarterly launch, which is how I sell PGSD. I hope this is making sense. So I was like, well, I actually would need to do, I wrote it down here, like at least 10 workshops with at least 1,000 registrations and at least 200 attendees, and to have 0 sales for me to even start to consider that it's not working. And then when I wrote that down, I was like, well, there's no way I'd do that many workshops or have that many people come and it wouldn't end up in a result, because I know how to sell TPPC, Power Planning course. And I know that my audience and the people who resonate with what I talk about, like this solves a massive problem for them that I'm very convicted about helping with and very skilled. And I've created the thing that helps. So then I went through like, okay, let's make the actual plan. Where am I still undecided? And it has just been really helpful to catch, this is just me feeling a feeling. I don't have to make a business decision, especially one that I was contemplating. And I only contemplated it for about 3 minutes. So I'm really impressed with myself for that. It wasn't like I spent hours thinking about it. I was like, oh, this is just ringing a bell for me that this might just be a feelings issue. And there's just a feeling I need to sit with, which is essentially feeling uncertain and feeling unsuccessful or like inadequate. I don't know. Just like that feeling of like, I've really tried something and I don't know if it'll work or not. That's the feeling I need to sit with. And I know that's the feeling I need to sit with all the way to my goal. So I'm just looking at my whiteboard to see what else might be helpful to talk about. I think that was the main thing I wanted to share. There's lots on here, but that for me was the biggest revelation. So now I'm going to make my plan for the rest of the quarter. We have a launch for Perfectionist Getting Shit Done. I actually need to decide with YouTube. I haven't decided, like I've been recording vlogs, I've been recording podcast episodes, but I haven't decided, like I have a thought that it's so hard to get it onto YouTube, even though I know it's not from experience. I've already done hundreds of videos at this point, but I haven't done that in a long time. And I'm like, oh, there's an issue, the size or whatever. So I just need to actually decide, confirm my email marketing plan. My podcast plan is pretty clear. I do 1 episode a week. The call to actions to the workshop, I've been looking at like, I want to do ads, but what I want to do first is really focus on getting as much of my organic, like people in my world already into the workshop, and really connecting with the fact I already have an audience of people who really want my help with this. Instead of if I did ads from a thought of no one in my audience wants this, so I need to find new people, it wouldn't help me. From that thought, I wouldn't actually be able to get my ads converting either. And I'd probably just have the same thought of like, actually, like these aren't the right people. I need to find different people, instead of it's my job to sell. It's my job to support someone to make a decision. It's not just like, well, let's see if we can find people who are just wandering around out there being like, I wish I could do power planning. Like they don't even know what it is yet. They're not even fully present to the cost of overwhelm, procrastination, all these things. So my focus and I'm turning it into a momentum project for myself for the rest of this quarter. So there's about 6 weeks left. I'm going to have 1 momentum project around the PGSD launch, and then 1 around for the workshop. I'm not going to focus on improving the content of the workshop. I'm not going to focus on the emails that go out after or anything. My focus is just having people go to the registration page and people signing up, because I need to get, I can't even tell yet about the quality of the workshop. And there's a million ways my perfectionist brain is like, improve this, improve that. But I currently don't have enough people going through this experience to be able to make a determination either way. So it'd just be based on my feelings of like, did I feel like it's clear? Did I feel like I sounded smart? Did I feel like this or that? And there's lots of valuable insight. Like there's lots of things that I could improve on. And I know I will naturally improve it. But the biggest thing I need is to direct my audience, like have this be the new call to action. It's either sign up for PGSD and get on the PGSD waitlist, or it is come to the power planning workshop. Like that's the thing. So I need to update all different places where people interact with me about that. I need to sell people on here's why it's so valuable to come. The people who were at the workshop were like, this was so good. And I know it was so good because I've taught it to so many people and they always say that. So that's the needle mover, is throughput for the workshop and finalizing my plan, because I'm noticing that I'm kind of like, I have half of a plan for this quarter and we're halfway through the quarter, but I don't have the full plan. And so I don't think that's going to take me long. Like I'm going to have that complete today and be able to power plan it out. Because when I'm clear, when I know what I'm doing, that for me, like being undecided is not when I do my best work. Being decided, it doesn't even matter if I make a shit decision, just literally making a decision. I make more money. I have a more successful business than when I don't make decisions. So the goal isn't to make the right decisions. The goal is to make decisions. So that is what I am going to be doing.